You are being deceived, and the worst, you like it. That feeling of love at first sight that you romanticize. Jung called it a psychological trap, a dangerous illusion that destroys relationships before they even begin, and you fall for it every time. Listen up. When you look at someone and feel that instant connection, you're not seeing them. He is seeing his own ghosts, their wounds not healed, their neurotic patterns disguised as passion. Jung was direct. This is not love. It is an unconscious projection, masked as romance. The brutal truth, you fall in love with the same person over and over again, different faces, same pattern, same neurosis, even destructive ending. Why? Because your unconscious is programmed to recognize and be attracted to exactly what will hurt you. It's like a psychological magnet that pulls you straight into suffering. Jung discovered something devastating. The people who cause love at first sight are always those who carry the same complexes as their parents, the same wounds, the same toxic patterns that you grew up believing to be normal. Your unconscious recognizes this instantly and screams, "It's her, it's him." But it's not love. It is a compulsion to repetition. Do you want to know why your perfect relationships always end in disaster? Because you never loved the real person. He loved the projection, she loved the costume, and when reality appears, and it always does, you feel betrayed. But the one who betrayed you was your own unconscious. The romance industry has sold you the biggest lie in history, that true love happens instantly. That when you know, complete bullshit. Jung proved that this is psychological regression. It is to return to the childlike state where you expect the other to complete what is missing in you. Is the reality that no one wants to hear. Love at first sight is emotional laziness. It is the refusal to do the real work of knowing yourself, of healing your wounds, of becoming a whole person. It's easier to fall in love with a fantasy than to face your own shadow. And the result? Relationships based on illusion, impossible expectations, inevitable disappointments. You get stuck in an endless cycle of great loves that always end the same way, in disappointment, anger, and the feeling that there are no good people in the world. Jung had the solution. But it hurts. It requires you to stop looking for love and start becoming someone capable of love. Withdraw your projections, that faces its wounds, that you become aware of your destructive patterns. Only then, and only then, will you be able to see a person as they really are. And then perhaps you will discover what real love is. 1. Unconscious projection. Jung discovered something that will destroy your romantic illusions. You never fall in love with a person. You fall in love with yourself, more specifically by rejected, idealized, or undeveloped parts of you that you project onto the other, as if they were real characteristics of him. Projection is an unconscious mechanism where you attribute to the external world content that belongs to your internal world. In love at first sight, this happens explosively and uncontrollably. You look at someone and instantly see qualities that you haven't even had time to observe. How is this possible? Simple. You're not watching. He is projecting. Think about the last time you felt that instant connection. What qualities did you immediately attribute to the person? Intelligence, sensitivity, strength, mystery? Jung would say, these qualities are in you, not in you. You recognize something familiar because it was yours. The problem is that you don't know it consciously. The projection works like a movie being shown on a blank screen. The person who awakens your love at first sight is just the screen. The film, with all its fantasies, expectations, and unmet needs, comes from its internal projector. You fall in love with the movie, not the screen. This explains why you can create a complete story about someone you just met. Because he can imagine a future together, feel that he has known each other for years, be sure that he is soulmates. You are not knowing the person. He is recognizing projections of his own unconscious contents. Jung observed that we mainly project what we most need to develop in ourselves. If you feel incomplete, you project completeness. If he feels weak, he projects strength. If he feels lost, he projects direction. The person becomes a repository of their needs disguised as admiration. The cruelest thing is that the projection is always temporary. Sooner or later, the person's reality will emerge. And when that happens, you don't feel like you're getting to know someone better. He feels that he is being betrayed, that the person has changed, that it wasn't who you thought, but she was never who you thought. You've never really seen her. Projection in love at first sight is particularly dangerous because it is intense and immediate. You don't have time to question, to observe, to get to know gradually. It's like being struck by an emotional bolt of lightning that blinds you to reality. And the stronger the projection, the more devastating the fall will be when it breaks down. Jung taught that the first step to healthy relationships is to remove projections. Recognize that what you love in the other may be exactly what you need to develop in yourself. That the real person is hiding behind your fantasies. And that true love only happens when you can see and accept who she really is, not who you imagined her to be. 2. Fantasy versus reality. Your brain is a professional liar. And in love at first sight, he works overtime creating fictions that you swear are true. Jung called this fantastic thinking, the mind's ability to create parallel realities based on unconscious desires, not observable facts. When you feel instant attraction, your brain immediately starts filling in information gaps with fantasies. You don't know what the person is like on a daily basis? Your unconscious invents. Not sure how she reacts under pressure? Your mind creates a script. Don't you know your values, fears, traumas? Your fantasy builds an idealized version based on what you wish were true. Fantasy is always more attractive than reality because it is customized to your desires. It's like a product tailored to your emotional needs. The real person, with their contradictions, limitations, and banal humanity, can never compete with the fantastic version you've created in your head. Jung discovered that we live simultaneously in two worlds, the world of facts and the world of fantasies. In love at first sight, the fantasy world completely hijacks your perception. You stop seeing what is happening and start seeing only what you would like to be happening. This explains why you get to have deep conversations with someone you've just met, because he feels that they understand each other perfectly, because they are sure that they think the same, want the same things, share the same dreams. You're not connecting with the real person. It's connecting with its own fantasy projected onto it. Reality, when it finally appears, is always a shock. The person has different opinions than yours. He has habits that irritate you. It has limitations that you didn't imagine. You have a life of your own that doesn't revolve around you. He has problems, neuroses, traumas that do not fit his romantic fantasy. Jung observed that the more intense the initial fantasy, the more brutal the confrontation with reality. It's like waking up from a wonderful dream and finding that you're in an uncomfortable bed, in a messy room, with someone who snores. Disillusionment is not proportional to the person's actual disappointment, but to the distance between his fantasy and reality. The problem is that most people, when confronted with this reality, do not question their fantasies. Question the person. She has changed. He's not the same anymore. In the beginning it was different. No, at first you were blind. Now you are starting to see. Fantasy in love at first sight works like a drug. It gives you intense and immediate pleasure, but it disconnects you from reality. And like all drugs, it creates dependence. You become addicted to the feeling of instant infatuation, and you start to always seek the next dose, always the next fantasy, always the next illusion of perfect love. Jung taught that emotional maturity is the ability to prefer reality to fantasy. of choosing to meet a real person with all their imperfections instead of falling in love with an idealized version that exists only in your imagination. 3. Unhealed wounds. You're not attracted to healthy people. You are attracted to people who carry the same wounds as you. Jung called this a constellation of complexes, a phenomenon where unresolved traumas recognize each other and create a destructive magnetic attraction. Their childhood wounds work as emotional antennae. They pick up on specific signals in other people's behavior, signs of abandonment, rejection, neglect, emotional abuse, and when they find a compatible frequency, they set off the alarm that you mistake for love at first sight. The person who causes you this instant sensation always carries marks similar to yours. If you grew up with an absent parent, you'll be instantly attracted to emotionally unavailable people. If you had a controlling mother, you will fall in love with those who show subtle signs of manipulation. Your unconscious recognizes the familiar pattern and screams, "That's the right person." But it is not. It is the wrong person disguised as the right. It is your wound finding another wound and creating the illusion of complementarity. Jung discovered that unhealed traumas cause us to seek out relationships that exactly replicate the dynamics that have hurt us in the past. You call it chemistry. Jung called it the repetition compulsion. Your unconscious is programmed to recreate familiar situations, even when those situations are toxic. It's as if your psyche says, "I know this pain, I know how to deal with it, I'm going to choose that over the unknown." Instant attraction is often the unconscious recognition that you've found someone who will hurt you in the same way you've been hurt before. Someone who will activate your wounds, confirm your limiting beliefs about yourself, validate your sense of not being worthy of love. This explains why their intense relationships always end the same way, why you always attract the same type of people with different faces. Why do you repeat the same destructive patterns and ask yourself, why does this always happen to me? Because you're unconsciously choosing people who are going to recreate your original traumas. Jung observed that unhealed wounds make us addicted to family dynamics, even when those dynamics are painful. It is more comfortable to suffer in a known way than to risk the vulnerability of a healthy, unknown love. The person who awakens love at first sight usually represents an unconscious opportunity to fix the past. Your unconscious believes that if you can make this person love you, you will finally heal the original wound. He will prove that he is worthy of the love he did not receive in childhood. But it doesn't work like that. Wounds are not healed through relationships. They heal themselves through self-knowledge, therapy, internal work. When you try to use someone else's medicine for your wounds, you're dooming the relationship to failure from the start. The brutal truth is that you need to heal your wounds on your own before you can love someone in a healthy way. You need to break neurotic patterns, integrate traumas, develop genuine self-esteem. Only then will you be attracted to emotionally available and psychologically healthy people. Jung taught that attraction based on shared wounds is not love. It is codependency disguised as romance. It's the desperate attempt of two broken people to fix each other, and it always ends in more breakdown, more pain, more confirmation that true love doesn't exist. 4. Repeated neurotic patterns. You are imprisoned in a prison that you built yourself, and the key is in your hand, but you refuse to use it. Jung called this fate neurosis, the compulsive tendency to repeat the same destructive patterns in relationships, as if you were following an invisible script written by your unconscious. Your neurotic patterns are like malicious software running in the background of your mind. They analyze each person you meet, filter the options, and always direct you to the same type of toxic relationship. And the worst, you believe that you are making free and conscious choices. Love at first sight is often the moment when your neurotic patterns recognize a compatible partner. Someone who will participate in the same destructive dance you already know. Someone who will confirm your limiting beliefs about relationships, about yourself, about what you deserve in life. Jung discovered that we repeat patterns because they give us an illusory sense of control. Even when the pattern is painful, at least it's predictable. You know how the story will end. He knows what role he will play. He knows how he will suffer, and this, perversely, is more comfortable than the uncertainty of trying something new. Think about your last intense relationships. Did they all start the same way? With the same feeling of instant connection? Did they all go through the same phases? Honeymoon, first fights, attempts at change, disappointment, end. You're not living different relationships. It's reliving the same relationship with different people. Your neurotic patterns work like emotional magnets. If you have a savior pattern, you will be attracted to people who need to be saved. If you have a victim pattern, you will be attracted to people who will victimize you. If you have a pattern of abandonment, you will be attracted to people who will abandon you. It's psychological mathematics. The person who causes love at first sight always fits perfectly into your main neurotic pattern. It's as if your unconscious says, "Perfect. I found someone who will allow me to play my favorite role in this tragic play I call love life." Jung observed that neurotic patterns are failed attempts to resolve internal conflicts through external relationships. You look for in the other what you should develop in yourself. Seeks external validation for problems that can only be solved internally. The cruelest thing is that you become addicted to your own neurotic patterns. They cause you suffering, but they also give you identity. You define yourself through them. I always fall in love with unavailable people. I always end up with narcissists. I'm always betrayed, as if it were destiny. Don't choose. The truth is, you unconsciously choose people who will confirm your patterns because it validates your neurotic worldview. If you believe you don't deserve love, you'll choose people who won't love you. If you believe that relationships always end badly, you will choose people who will guarantee that ending. Jung taught that breaking neurotic patterns requires brutal awareness of oneself. It requires admitting that you are not a victim of circumstances, but a co-creator of your own dramas. It requires taking responsibility for your unconscious choices and consciously deciding to create new and healthy patterns. But that means giving up your neurotic identity. It means to stop defining yourself through your suffering. It means choosing to grow rather than repeat. And most people prefer the familiarity of known suffering to the uncertainty of unknown growth. 5. Cast shadow. You fall in love with exactly what you deny most about yourself. Jung discovered that the shadow, all the rejected, repressed, and denied aspects of your personality, is projected onto people who arouse instant attraction. And this creates an explosive and destructive psychological dynamic. Your shadow contains everything you consider unacceptable about yourself: anger, selfishness, sexuality, aggressiveness, vulnerability, emotional needs. Everything you learn to hide to be a good person. But the shadow does not disappear. It projects itself into the external world, especially into people who express it openly. In love at first sight, you are often attracted to people who live out aspects of your shadow that you have repressed. If you've suppressed your aggression, you'll fall in love with someone strong and determined. If you have denied your sexuality, you will be attracted to someone sensual and free. If he hid his vulnerability, he will be fascinated by someone sensitive and emotional. The attraction is intense because you are recognizing lost parts of yourself. It's like finding pieces of your soul that you've thrown away. Your unconscious screams, "Finally, I found someone who has what I lack," but you're not missing anything. You're denying it. Jung observed that projection of the shadow creates relationships based on simultaneous fascination and repulsion. You are attracted to the person for the exact same qualities that will later irritate you deeply. What you initially call a strong personality later becomes unbearable aggressiveness. What was sexual freedom becomes promiscuity. This happens because you cannot integrate these qualities into yourself. You want them, but you also judge them. He admires them, but also condemns them. And when the honeymoon ends, the projection is reversed. What was fascination becomes rejection. What was admiration becomes destructive criticism. The person who awakens love at first sight often carries aspects of your shadow that you find both attractive and threatening. Part of you wants to connect with these qualities. Another part wants to control them, domesticate them, make them acceptable according to their internal moral standards. Jung discovered that we try to fix in others what we cannot accept in ourselves. If you're attracted to someone who is rebellious, you'll soon try to make them more responsible. If you are fascinated by someone free, you will try to limit them with commitments and expectations. You want the shadow, but tamed. The result is always conflict. The person resists your attempts to change because you are trying to change the very thing that made them attractive in the first place. And you get frustrated because she doesn't want to improve, doesn't want to grow, doesn't want to change. But changing would mean ceasing to be who she is. The projection of the shadow on love at first sight creates a love-hate dynamic. You love the person for the qualities you project onto them, but you hate those same qualities because they represent rejected aspects of yourself. It's an internal war being waged on the battlefield of relationship. Jung taught that the solution is not to find someone who expresses your shadow for you. It is to integrate your own shadow. Accept that you also have anger, selfishness, sexuality, aggressiveness. That these aspects are not bad, they are human, and that denying them only makes them more powerful and destructive. When you integrate your shadow, you stop compulsively attracting yourself to people who express it. Stop looking for in others what you can develop in yourself. And he begins to relate to real people, not to projections of his rejected aspects. 6. Anima and animus. Inside you, there is a person of the opposite sex. Jung called this internal figure anima in men and animus in women. And when you feel love at first sight, you're often falling in love with someone who perfectly embodies that unconscious image. The problem is that this image is a fantasy, not a real person. His anima or animus was formed through his early experiences with the opposite sex, mainly his parents, but also cultural figures, media, literature. It's an unconscious collage of idealized characteristics that you believe a perfect partner should have. In love at first sight, you project this archetypal image onto the person and instantly recognize your soulmate. But you're not acknowledging the real person. He is recognizing his own psychological creation projected onto him. It's like falling in love with a mirror that reflects your own fantasy. Jung found that men often project the anima onto women who represent feminine aspects that they have repressed in themselves. Sensitivity, intuition, emotionality, receptivity. They fall in love with these qualities because they need to develop them internally, but prefer to seek them externally. Women do the same with the animus, projecting onto men masculine qualities that they have denied in themselves. Strength, determination, rationality, independence. They feel completed by men who express these traits because they avoid developing them in themselves. The attraction is intense because you feel like you've found your lost half. But Jung showed that this is an illusion. You don't have the lost half. You have undeveloped aspects that you project onto others rather than integrate into yourself. The person becomes a repository of his unrealized potentialities. Anima, animus, projection-based love at first sight always ends in disillusionment because you expect the person to be exactly like your internal image. When she demonstrates characteristics that don't fit your fantasy, you feel betrayed. She's not who I thought. He has changed. No, you were the one who was blind. Jung observed that anima-animus projection-based relationships are fundamentally narcissistic. You don't love the person. He loves his own psychological creation reflected in it. It is a sophisticated way of falling in love with oneself, using the other as a mirror. The real person, with its complexity, contradictions, and humanity, can never compete with the perfection of its internal image. She will always disappoint because she is human, not archetypal. There are bad days, variable moods, limitations, defects, things that your idealized anima-animus never has. The cruelest thing is that you punish the person for not being your fantasy. You criticize, try to change, get frustrated because it doesn't correspond to the image you projected. But she never committed to being his anima-animus. You unilaterally decided that she should play this role. Jung taught that emotional maturity requires taking away the projections of anima-animus and integrating these qualities into oneself. Men need to develop their sensitivity without projecting it onto women. Women need to develop their strength without looking for it in men. When you integrate your anima-animus, you stop looking for completeness in relationships. Stop looking for your lost half. It becomes a whole person who chooses to relate to whole other people, not to projections of their undeveloped aspects. Only then can you see and love a real person with all their human imperfections, instead of falling in love with an archetypal fantasy that exists only in your imagination. 7. Parental complexes. You're dating your parents, and he doesn't even realize it. Jung discovered that unresolved parental complexes make us compulsively seek partners who reproduce the dynamics of our childhood. Love at first sight is often the unconscious recognition that you've found someone who will exactly recreate the emotional environment you grew up in. Your maternal or paternal complex works as an invisible program running in your unconscious. It analyzes every person you meet and triggers attraction signals when it finds someone who carries similar characteristics to your parents. No physical characteristics, emotional, behavioral, energetic characteristics. If you've had a controlling mother, you'll be instantly attracted to people who show subtle signs of control. If you had an absent father, you will fall in love with emotionally unavailable people. If you grew up with critical parents, you'll be attracted to people who make you feel inadequate. Your unconscious recognizes the familiar pattern and confuses familiarity with love. Jung observed that parenting complexes make us seek one of two things: to repeat the original dynamic or to try to fix it. Both are traps. In repetition, you recreate the same suffering as in childhood. In the attempt to repair, you try to use the relationship to heal wounds that can only be healed internally. The person who awakens love at first sight often represents an unconscious opportunity to do it differently this time. Your father complex believes that if he can make this surrogate father love you, he will finally prove his worth. Her mother complex believes that if she can satisfy this surrogate mother, she will finally feel accepted. But it doesn't work like that. You can't heal your relationship with your parents through other people. It cannot resolve childhood issues through adult relationships. When you try to do that, you're condemning the relationship to carry a weight it can't bear. The most perverse thing is that you unconsciously choose people who will confirm your original parental wounds. If your parents made you feel unloved, you'll choose someone who is incapable of loving you fully. If you have been made to feel inadequate, you will choose someone who will criticize and belittle you. It's as if your unconscious said, "My parents were right about me." Jung discovered that parenting complexes create impossible expectations in relationships. You expect your partner to be both a parent and a lover. May it heal their wounds and satisfy their needs. Be strong as you wanted your parents to be, but also submissive to your emotional demands. Instant attraction based on parental complexes always ends in conflict because you are trying to resolve issues of power and dependence that belong to childhood. You want to be cared for like a child, but respected like an adult. He wants to be protected, but he also wants to control. He wants to receive unconditional love, but he doesn't want to give anything in return. The real person can never compete with the idealized parental image you project onto them. It has its own needs, limitations, wounds. You can't be the perfect parent you never had. And when this becomes clear, you feel abandoned again, confirming your original wounds. Jung taught that resolving parental complexes requires separating the past from the present. Recognize that you are no longer a dependent child, that his parents did the best they could with the limitations they had, that you are now responsible for healing your own wounds and meeting your own needs. When you resolve your parenting complexes, you stop looking for surrogate parents in relationships. Stop trying to heal the past through the present. He becomes able to relate to people as equals, not as idealized or demonized parental figures. Only then can you love someone for who they are, not for what they represent in relation to your unresolved issues with your parents. 8. Individuation interrupted. You stopped growing when you started looking for completeness in others. Jung called individuation the process of becoming who you really are, integrating all aspects of your personality. But most people stop this process at the first opportunity to complete themselves through a relationship. Individuation is the most important work of your life. It is the process of knowing yourself deeply, accepting your contradictions, integrating your shadow, developing your potentialities. It is to become a unique and complete individual, able to live authentically without relying on external validation. But it is a difficult, lonely, sometimes painful job. It requires you to face uncomfortable truths about yourself, that abandons comforting illusions, that you take full responsibility for your life. And most people prefer to avoid this work by looking for in relationships what they should develop internally. Love at first sight is often an escape from individuation. It's the illusion that you've found someone who will complete you, heal you, make you happy. That will give you purpose, identity, value. It is the fantasy that two incomplete people can come together and form a complete person. Jung found that people who have not done the work of individuation become emotional vampires in relationships. They suck from their partner what they should develop in themselves: energy, self-esteem, purpose, identity. The relationship becomes a psychological crutch, not a free choice. When you interrupt your individuation to complete yourself through someone, you are essentially outsourcing your responsibility to grow. He is saying, I don't need to develop because I have found someone who has what I lack. But this is an illusion. You are still incomplete, just disguised. The person who awakens love at first sight often represents aspects of individuation that you have abandoned. If you've stopped developing your creativity, you'll be attracted to artists. If you have abandoned your spirituality, you will be fascinated by enlightened people. If you have denied your strength, you will fall in love with powerful people. But you don't really want to develop those aspects. He just wants to associate with someone who has them. It's easier to date an artist than it is to get creative. It's simpler to fall in love with someone spiritual than to do your own inner work. It is more comfortable to admire the strength of the other than to develop your own. Jung observed that relationships based on disrupted individuation always become toxic. One person becomes dependent on the other to feel complete. The other feels burdened with the responsibility of being the source of the partner's completeness. No one can be authentic because they are both playing roles. The brutal truth is that you can't truly love someone until you become a whole person. Love requires two developed individualities choosing to connect, not two desperate halves trying to form a whole. When you seek completeness in the other, you are not offering love. It is offering need disguised as love. Individuation cannot be outsourced. It cannot be done in pairs. It is an individual process that requires the courage to face loneliness, uncertainty, the responsibility of creating oneself. It's a lifetime's work, and it can't be stopped by the illusion that someone else will do it for you. Jung taught that only individuated people can have healthy relationships. People who know themselves, accept themselves, take responsibility for themselves. Who choose to relate out of love, not out of necessity. Who offer their completeness instead of seeking completeness in the other. When you resume your individuation, you stop looking for your lost half and become a whole person capable of loving whole other people. 9. Conscious love. True love doesn't happen at first sight. It happens after the 1000th sight, when you have seen the person in all their states, know their wounds, accept their limitations, and still choose to stay. Jung taught that conscious love is a deliberate decision, not an emotional accident. Conscious love requires you to withdraw all your projections, that they stop seeing in the other what they want to see and start seeing what is really there. A real person with contradictions, defects, bad days, human limitations, and that you choose to love this reality, not an idealized fantasy. The difference between passion and conscious love is brutal. Passion is based on illusion, projection, necessity. Conscious love is based on real knowledge, genuine acceptance, free choice. Passion happens to you. Conscious love is created by you through conscious decisions repeated daily. Jung discovered that conscious love is only possible between two people who have done the work of getting to know each other deeply, who integrated their shadows, resolved their complexes, removed their projections, who have become complete individuals capable of choosing to relate for love, not for need. In conscious love, you don't expect the other to complete you. You offer your completeness. It does not seek healing through relationship. You bring your own healing. It does not project its unmet needs. You take responsibility for satisfying them or accepting them as part of the human condition. Conscious love is slow. It develops gradually through mutual knowledge, built trust, shared vulnerability. It doesn't have the addictive intensity of passion because it's not based on drama, projection, or desperate need. It is stable, consistent, reliable. The person you consciously love is not perfect. It is not your soulmate. It doesn't complete you. It's simply someone real that you know deeply and with whom you choose to build a life. Someone whose imperfections you accept because you understand that perfection is fantasy, not reality. Jung observed that conscious love requires emotional maturity, the ability to love without possessing, to connect without merging, to care without controlling. It requires you to abandon the romantic fantasy of two hearts beating as one and accept the reality of two distinct people choosing to walk together. In conscious love, conflicts are not signs of incompatibility. They are opportunities for deeper mutual knowledge. Differences are not problems to be solved. These are aspects of individuality to be respected. Limitations are not disappointments. These are human characteristics to be accepted. Conscious love does not promise eternal happiness. It promises mutual growth, real companionship, authentic intimacy. It does not offer the fantasy of living happily ever after. It offers the reality of two imperfect people choosing to love each other through all the seasons of life. Building conscious love is a daily job. It requires repeated choices to see the other person as they are, not as you would like them to be. To accept your limitations without trying to change them. To offer your love without expectations of specific return. To grow together without losing your individuality. Jung taught that conscious love is the ultimate goal of emotional maturity. It is the ability to love without need, to connect without dependence, to commit without losing oneself. It is love free of projections, illusions, and unrealistic expectations. When you develop the capacity for conscious love, you stop looking for the right person and become the right person. Stop expecting to be loved perfectly and learn to love imperfectly. Stop looking for your soulmate and become a whole soul capable of consciously choosing who to share your life with. 10. Authentic relationship. An authentic relationship is built on truth, not fantasy. Jung taught that authenticity requires brutal courage to show who you really are and to see who the other really is. No masks, no personas, no projections. Just two real people deciding to meet and accept each other. Authentic relationships start slowly. There is no love at first sight because you are committed to meeting the real person, not falling in love with a projection. You observe how she behaves under pressure, how she treats people who can't do anything for her, how she reacts when she's angry, sad, frustrated. Authenticity requires you to let go of your persona, the social mask you wear to impress others. It means showing your flaws, your insecurities, your limitations. It means admitting when you are wrong, when you don't know something, when you need help. It means being vulnerable with no guarantees that you will be accepted. Jung found that most people prefer persona-based relationships because it's safer. You can control the image you project, hide aspects you consider unacceptable, maintain the illusion of perfection. But relationships based on personas are fundamentally false. You are not relating to the real person, nor are you allowing them to relate to you. In authentic relationships, conflicts are inevitable and necessary. They reveal real differences between two distinct people. These are not signs of incompatibility. They are opportunities for deeper mutual knowledge. You learn how the other deals with anger, frustration, disappointment, and it learns how you react under pressure. Authenticity requires that you stop trying to fix the other, that he accepts that he is who he is, with his limitations and peculiarities, that he abandons the fantasy that he can mold it in his image and likeness, that you respect your individuality even when it bothers you. Authentic relationships are based on free choice, not desperate need. You don't need the person to feel complete, valid, or loved. You choose to be with her because you appreciate who she is, not because you need what she stands for or offers. Jung noted that authenticity requires continuous inner work. You need to know your own motivations, recognize your projections, take responsibility for your emotional reactions. You can't blame the other for making you feel in a certain way. Your feelings are yours, your reactions are yours, your choices are yours. In authentic relationships, intimacy is built through mutual vulnerability, not through emotional intensity or drama. You share your real fears, your genuine hopes, your true wounds, and it allows the other to do the same, without judging, without trying to fix, without using this information against him. Authenticity requires you to let go of unrealistic expectations about relationships, that you accept that no one can make you happy if you are not able to create your own happiness. Who understands that relationships are for mutual growth, not for healing individual wounds? Authentic relationships survive because they are based on reality, not fantasy. When you know and accept the real person, there are no devastating disappointments. There is only the ongoing process of deeper mutual knowledge, growing acceptance, and renewed choice to stay together. Jung taught that authentic relationships are rare because they require two people brave enough to shed their masks and show themselves as they really are. People willing to do the inner work necessary to become capable of loving without projecting, of connecting without merging, of committing without losing themselves. When you become capable of authentic relationships, You stop looking for the perfect person and become a real person capable of loving other real people. Stop looking for your soulmate and become a brave enough soul to reveal yourself and accept revelations. Stop dreaming of perfect love and become capable of true love.